Hello everyone and welcome back to the Great Book of Grudges. My name is Nathan and we're back with some Warhammer 3 news. So just yesterday, a Q&A was hosted by Creative Assembly on their official Total War Discord in relation to both Warhammer 3 and Warhammer 2. There's quite a little bit to discuss, so I figured making a video on this might be a good idea. So I've gone throughout the whole Q&A and I've picked out anything of quite importance, I'd say, in regards to both games. Before anything, apologies if I sound a bit strange. I haven't slept all night due to some family matters. But let's keep moving. It seems that a few developers and a few community team members took part in this Q&A session, and quite a lot has been revealed, so let's just jump right in. In the Skull stream, there were two pictures with some unit cards and some marked Minotaurs. In there, right beside Scarbrand, aka the hero, is that a Slaughter Priest by chance? And the reply was, no, it is not a Slaughter Priest. The roster reveal will reveal what he is. Okay, interestingly enough, it's not an Age of Sigmar unit, which many of us had thought it was. I'm rather curious to find out what this is now, however, we're gonna have to wait until the roster reveal, and who knows when that is. Next question, do we have any news on the Collector's Edition yet? Not yet. When there is news, it will be shared on our social media accounts. Nothing too big, but I know some people were asking about this a few times. Next question, are the new Chaos factions able to recruit Legendary Lords from the Chaos Warriors DLC? No, at least not for Warhammer 3 release. Okay, so maybe in the future they'll be able to confederate? This makes me at least a bit more calm that a slot for a Slaaneshi Lord is not going to be taken up by Sigvald. Though it's interesting to find out that the Warriors of Chaos will act as their own entity. I would have expected them to go to some Chaos Undivided faction, but I guess we'll have to wait until Creative Assembly decide to share news on that. Next question, when can we expect to see the Kislev and Khorne roster reveals, and can we expect to hear anything at E3 this weekend? Soon for the roster reveals, and no for E3. Okay, they're being fairly secretive when it comes to everything, and it's understandable. Of course, with these things, they might have dates planned and those are subject to change. But nothing for E3, okay? You'd expect something so big to be showcased a bit. Next question, will human Khorne infantry have their own animations or use Warriors of Chaos resources in that regard? They are reusing existing Warriors of Chaos animation tables. Yeah, this was kind of expected because, as far as we've seen, there's not much of a visual change in regards to the units. The Warriors of Chaos for Khorne look very much like the Warriors of Chaos for the standard ones. The only real difference is color scheme and helmet, and I don't know what to think about this because obviously this would then likely affect Nurgle, Tzeentch and Slaanesh, and their warriors tend to look a little different, but I guess they're going with a tabletop aspect where everything's just a recolor. Next questions, how much of a leap graphically is the game compared to Game 2? Is it closer to 3K and Troy? Like, I know it's the same engine, but is it an upgraded version similar to 3K? And have there been any improvements to the textures of Game 1 and Game 2 units? Specifically Game 1, they look a bit outdated in game. The answer was we have significantly updated the game engine to inherit some of the graphical features found in 3K. We will be investigating how much work can be done to the Warhammer 1 and 2 textures, but some of the additional engine and shaker work should help them bring up to the quality found in Warhammer 3. Okay, yeah, this is good because, well, when you go back to older stuff, like say for example Chaos Undivided, they do look a little bit dated, so it's good to know that some graphical improvements are considered to come in. It's going to be well needed, especially as I've seen the units up close when I played the Warhammer 3 reveal. They look really good compared to stuff of older games, and honestly, if they can be brought in line at least to as close as possible, it's just going to be fantastic. Next question, is the entire Kislev roster AGW that they have passed on to you saying this is what we're creating for Kislev, or are you allowed artistic freedom to create, for example, more variations or certain units? We have worked very closely with Games Workshop on the Kislev designs to ensure that not only do we respect the lore that they have established for the race, but also that they fit in with the visual aesthetic we've established for all three games. Whilst we have some creative freedom, everything is reviewed and approved by Games Workshop and their expert design teams. So this question can be in relation to both Warhammer players for Total War and Tabletop. For the Tabletop guys, everything that's seen in Warhammer 3 will not be available to us for Warhammer the Old World, which, okay, yeah, makes fair enough sense. I quite like the look of them, so hopefully we'll be able to see as many as possible. And in regards to the Total War fans, well, this is something I've been saying a lot, but people don't seem to believe me. Games Workshop has an active role when it comes to these types of things. They're very protective of their IP, and these things have to be approved by them. Next question. In 2 trailers, we've seen bear cavalry on brown bears. What's the difference of those and the polar bear riding cavalry? The answer is, so at one point during development, the Kislev war bears were riding brown bears. They are now riding white bears instead, but some of the cinematics were done before that change occurred. Okay, so we're not getting too many bears as far as I see. I was getting worried because, well, we were just showing bears of different colors constantly, which many people, including myself, attributed to new units. It is interesting to note, however, how quickly stuff can change aesthetically or anything in game in general, even if cinematics have already been produced. So who knows what else changes, I guess, by the time that we get closer to the release date? Next question. I noticed that in the trailer, Skarbrand is shown briefly flying for a moment. One of the things that makes Skarbrand unique from other Bloodthirsters is that he lost the ability to fly after being exiled by Khorne. Will he be able to fly in-game, and if he can, is there an explanation for this? Skarbrand can't fly in-game, his wings are ruined. He does have a jump wing flap animation, but he won't be able to fly around in-game. Okay, this is something which has popped up in a bunch of my live streams before and my comment sections, but don't you worry, this is how it's going to work. They're keeping to the lore, so there's no need to panic about that. As far as I've seen when it comes to Total War Warhammer, they've kept to the lore fairly well. This next one is fairly interesting. What battle mechanics does Khorne's army have? Will it be similar to the Dark Elves, Tomb Kings and Greenskins, or will it be similar to attributes like Scurry Away and Berserk/Rage? And the answer is, Khorne's battle mechanic revolves around killing the enemy. Each kill made by the Khorne army adds to his battle resource, which can be spent to fire off one of 3 army abilities. Additionally, several Khorne units come with the passive abilities that scale in intensity based on the number of kills made by that unit. So most of it revolves around killing. Okay, so it's a bit of a mixture of Dark Elves, Tomb Kings and Greenskins mechanic, isn't it? And it's nice to see that the Khorne army will get stronger and stronger when it comes to doing damage. There is a proper feel here of a proper Blood for the Blood God type of aesthetic, which is cool. I like this. If they're going to get stronger the more damage they do, then balancing is, I guess, going to be done well. I was kind of worried that Khorne would be the weakest because, well, yeah, no ranged units and no magic. Next question. Is every unit for the Khorne and Kislev roster now revealed via trailers, gameplay videos, or do we still have some surprises left to reveal? The Creative Assembly staff member just put a winky emoji, which I guess means that there's a lot more to show, or maybe just a few more. Next question. Is the Snow Leopard a unit or a summon? And the answer is both. It's also been confirmed that it is a single entity unit. So yeah, okay, cool. It was kind of expected when we saw that in the trailers, though a pride of these snow leopards would have been kind of nice too. Who knows what comes in the future, I guess. Next question. Will Catherine have a mount option? If so, can you reveal which mounts she gets? The answer is she will have mount options, but they can't reveal the mounts yet. I'm assuming she'll probably get some stuff revolving around her former model, which was a horse and a sled. It's just nice to know that she's not going to be constantly going around as some discount Silver Surfer. Next we have some news regarding the Beastmen DLC. Will the Horde rework apply to other Horde factions, Warriors of Chaos, Nakai, and maybe in some way the Vampire Coast, or just the Beastmen? And the answer was, the Beastmen rework has been created bespoke to capture the Beastmen fantasy, so not a general Horde rework. Okay, so there seems to have been some miscommunication when it came to Games Workshop, as they had mentioned that it was sweeping changes coming to Horde mechanics, but it looks like it's just the Beastmen. That's fine, I guess, even though Nakai's isn't really the best, but it's nice to see that the Beastmen are going to get something, at least the way I'm interpreting things now, very unique to themselves. We'll have to wait and see how this develops, but I was really hoping for a full general Horde rework, though again, Beastmen needed a lot of love, so it's nice to see that attention is going to them. Next question. What kind of abilities can we expect from Konstantin? He comes with the 4 Kislev Patriarch hymns, each one for Ursun, Salyak, Daz and Tur. Okay, cool, so all gods are being mentioned here. Let's carry on. These are area of effect support abilities, offering a tooltip of both healing, vigor reduction, leadership buffing, and melee attack buffs. Additionally, Konstantin has a host of passive abilities that buffs units around him when he is wounded, and other passives that make him exceedingly hard to kill. Alright, so all the gods from Kislev's main roster are still canon, which is fantastic. This, as a lore fan, very happy about this. Here's hoping the Pantheon has some sort of influence when it comes to Kislev, as, well, really religion has nothing to do in Total War Warhammer at the moment. But we already expected Konstantin to be very much like discount Volkmar the Grim. I can't wait to see how he actually plays, because, of course, you've got the difference here. Do you want him, which is melee focused, very much like a battle priest, or the Tsarina herself, which, well, yeah, she's a spellcaster, and spellcasters usually do the most damage because, well, spells. This next question is rather important. Will Khorne be a Horde faction? And they responded with no. Okay, I don't know what's going on here, but this is obviously very, very interesting. You've got to take into account that all Chaos factions so far have been a Horde faction, and now they won't. I'm assuming it's because of the inclusion of the Realms of Chaos, where they'll be able to be some sort of proto-Horde in a sense, very similar to that of Norska, where they'll only be able to settle certain regions, like for example, of course, the Realms of Chaos, Norska, and maybe a few other places. I don't know, but this sounds really interesting, and we will need to have a follow-up video regarding this. Next question. With new units like the Bloodthirster being added, will there be additional options for enhanced control of flying units, i.e. manual toggle between flying and landed? And their answer was, we are looking into it, but there are a fair share of problems to solve it, so we can't give a definite yes or no answer to that. A flying toggle for flying units would be absolutely amazing. I'm pretty sure that I'm not the only one that wants that. Especially as I've mentioned before, Bloodthirsters will be flying, and that makes them an absolute target for any shooting units, so if they're at least on the ground, they can mix up with other monstrous units and might make it easier for them to hide a little bit. Here's hoping the development team are able to add in this toggle function, though I'm assuming that if they aren't able, probably modders will do it in the future? Next question. Will Warhammer 3 have extreme unit sizes, and will spell damage scale with unit size? No extreme unit size. I guess we can just keep to the ones that we have now, and it makes sense, I guess, because Warhammer is far more demanding than, say, a historical game, which is usually just based on humans, whereas all the unit models in Warhammer have a lot going on. But moving on, regarding damage scaling, we've done a fair share of work to improve damage scaling based on unit sizes. Direct damage, healing, single entity weapon, and projectile strength, missile strength damage will now scale with unit size settings. This should make the play experience more consistent across unit size settings. Fantastic, this is more quality of life, and, well, it solves a lot of issues. I'm really happy to hear about this, it's great balancing. Next question. Does Khorne have something to compensate for the lack of magic and ranged firepower? Extremely strong units plus spell resistance for all Khorne demons. Khorne will on average be one of the hardest hitting elite factions in game. Okay, so spell resistance for the demons, not the mortals. That's strange, but okay. Though it does make sense to make them very hard hitting and the most elite. Here's hoping that stat-wise that means that they're going to be very punishing if they get into melee combat. This is the only thing that makes sense both gameplay-wise and lore-wise. Next questions. Are Bloodthirsters only lords or recruitable units too? They're both. Okay, makes sense. That's why we have exalted Bloodthirsters and standard ones. Bloodthirster Doomstacks are going to be completely possible. I'm assuming they're going to be absolutely hilarious in-game by having, what, 20 flying about? We're going to have to wait and see what Okoi does with that in a future video, I assume. And the next question, can we play the Vortex in Warhammer 3, or will we need to play Warhammer 2 for it? No, the Vortex campaign is Warhammer 2's campaign. Understandable, but a shame. Honestly, I was hoping that we'd see all the campaigns from the previous games eventually ported into Warhammer 3. Stuff like the Eye for an Eye, the Wood Elf one, and even the Vortex would be nice to play with all the new quality of life changes. Next question, what's the most challenging aspect of balancing the Khorne army as a whole, where just about everything is an aggressive melee fighter? So Khorne definitely has two dimensions. The demonic units for Khorne are reasonably fast, very hard hitting, and somewhat squishy on average, while the mortal Chaos Warriors and Skull Crushers offer more staying power at the cost of lower mobility. The challenge is figuring out how to mix those two elements together and how to maintain cohesion with these different elements. Khorne is also a very elite-focused faction, so you'll often need tools to win battles even when outnumbered. I don't know how to feel about Khorne being outnumbered in all honesty. His stuff is always represented in lore to have many legions. And I don't know, in lore, the demons also had ward saves which protected them, so they weren't too squishy. I hope they will have a natural ward, or else, well, gunlines will get rid of them. Next question, when can we expect a full trailer for the Silence and the Fury DLC? And the answer is July. It's really not that far away. I wish it was a little sooner, but hey, July is right around the corner, so let's just be patient, I guess. Next question, and this one has a large answer. What are the legendary items / mounts of Catherine, Constantine, and Skarbrand, and what can the items do? Could you give us more specifics on how Skarbrand will work as a unit in-game, and also for Constantine? Catherine will have Frostfang and the Crystal Cloak. Frostfang allows Catherine to cast a bound Icy Explosion spell. We've seen this in the showcases before, it's actually quite powerful. Crystal Cloak protects Catherine with a strong ward save whenever she casts a spell. Okay, fair enough, it's one of those things which just comes into effect when she's casting. Given the fact that she's a caster lord, she should be doing that on a regular basis. Constantine has the Brazier Mace of Urson, which increases Constantine's weapon strength whenever he goes under 50% health. Alright, so the more damage he takes, the more damage he deals. Awesome, kinda like that. Skarbrand has Slaughter and Carnage, twin axes, which increases weapon strength with each kill on the battlefield. Feed them Skaven slaves at your own peril. Oh, so he gets stronger and stronger as he does more damage. This should be quite cool. Skarbrand is a pure powerhouse. He hits like a truck, comes with heavy armor and spell resistance, and is surprisingly fast as well. His only downside is his lack of flying, but he more than makes up for it with his killing power. Okay, this should be pretty cool. Constantine is very much a support character that has his powers amplified when chucked into melee. Generally, his powers really start kicking in when the going gets rough, making him an inspirational leader for the direst of battles. I'm honestly more curious to see how he plays than the Ice Queen. I'm honestly really curious. Next question. If you considered Oxyotal's lore fighting chaos, then why did you not save him for Warhammer 3 so that he could lawfully fight a Demon of Tzeentch in a DLC? There are a few key Lizardmen units still to come, so we wanted to get them into Warhammer 2, and Oxyotal made the most sense to go up against Beastmen for our final pack. I'd say it's a tad debatable on my part, but we'll leave that at that. Though it makes me think with 7 legendary lords that the Beastmen will be fully complete by the end of Warhammer 2, and we might not expect anything else for the future. Repteto Echo. Next question, will there be any other magic type for Kislev except for ice in the start of Warhammer 3, since you didn't show any hags? Their answer is that there is also the Lore of Tempest. Still no word about hags though, and the Lore of Hags, which is a shame because those were heavily embedded into Warhammer Fantasy lore for Kislev. I'm still very much holding out hope that they're either waiting for the final reveal, or that it's going to be a DLC type of character. I really hope so at the very least. There are so many different aspects to Kislev in lore, though it is getting rewritten quite heavily, so we're gonna have to wait and see. I just really hope that we do end up getting hags in the future. Next question, why are bears pulling sleds instead of Oblast elks from the lore? The answer was we worked with Games Workshop directly on the designs and functionality on the sleds to respect their lore and expectations. Which unfortunately means, I guess, the Oblast Elks, which were very well known in lore though didn't really have any models, are no longer in lore? It's a shame, really. It looks like Kislev's lore perspective is getting changed so much that it's not really the same Kislev anymore. A lot of stuff is staying the same, and I'm not trying to sound negative here, but just keep in mind that I grew up with this lore, so a lot of stuff changing is changing a lot of stuff that I grew up with. Next question, what Warhammer 1 and 2 races do you think could still use an adjustment brought up to Warhammer 2/3's level? I think the obvious one is Norska. They've fallen behind during Warhammer 2, and we want to make sure all factions are great experiences. So whatever the first cross-game DLC for Warhammer 3 may be could include Norsca, or at least that's my interpretation of things, as, well, Norsca kinda suck at the moment, so it's nice that they at least acknowledge that. Next up are two questions. Will Khorne have an additional generic lord at launch aside from the Exalted Bloodthirster? Yes, but we can't go into detail about it yet. I'm assuming that this will be some mortal servant instead of a bloodletter lord. I'm assuming that heralds in any way, shape or form will stay as heroes, so it makes sense to have a mortal champion, or at least I very much hope so. And will we see any new Khorne demons not currently in the GW model range? Nope. So, nothing new, and if anything new comes out in the future, apparently we're not likely to get that either. Okay, it makes sense they're trying to stay away from Age of Sigmar and so on, though so far we've already seen quite a bit, and it's not really that large, is it? There's not really too much to discuss after that. A bunch of stuff was repeated over and over, so it just gets really repetitive. If I would have covered every single thing, we would have been here for about an hour or so just repeating stuff. There are a few things that will need to be explored further in future videos, as there's just a few things I'm just really confused about. But so far, there is quite a decent amount of news, and Creative Assembly were open enough to be able to answer as much as possible. Yes, there were a few questions that went largely ignored, but then again, I'm assuming there's just certain things they can't talk about. It's all a progress, isn't it? But what do you guys think about the recent information? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below, and let's start a bit of a discussion. But with that, my friends, we've come to the end of our video. Thank you so much for watching. If you did enjoy the video, might I suggest giving the video a like, or even subscribing to the channel, as it really does help us out. In the description section below are various links to different social media platforms such as Facebook, Instagram, and Discord. Also in the description section is an affiliate link with Element Games, where you could buy loads of hobby-based products, not just Warhammer, for 10 to 25% off. Making a purchase using that link and also our special code, which is also in the description, supports the channel at no extra cost to you, which we think is rather cool. A big thank you to our patrons. Your support means the world to us. It's amazing that people want to help a small channel like us grow and get to a higher level of content. A big thank you to Gibraltar LUSC, Ryan Bertsche, Andrew Prince, and Okro for subscribing to us at our Fane level. You guys are super cool. And a big thank you to Edward Yule, VS Vasan, Aaron Whitman, and Shaggy for subscribing to us at our King level. Honestly, we can't thank you all enough. And lastly, a big thank you to all of you for liking, sharing, and commenting on these videos. Honestly, it's because of you guys that the channel's been growing at such a great pace lately, so we can't thank you all enough. But with that, my friends, thank you so much for watching once again, and we shall see you all again very, very soon. Have a good day.